Season 7 of Classic Who and Doctor Who in general. It's time for this guy. Jon Pertwee as the third Doctor. So, Jon Pertwee's first season, there was some changes between the 6th and the 7th season. For example, when they did all the Doctor Who that was in black and white, they tried to do a whole year block. They tried to actually make 52 episodes per year. Now, they didn't succeed at that, of course, but they were up at like 40 each season. This time they decided to make it easier instead and just make it a half year, so 26 episodes. Well, actually this season was actually just 25, that was a lot of actuallys. This first season was only 25 episodes, but then in general there were 26 episodes. So this 7th season was for the first time Doctor Who was in color. They had a smaller budget because they had been losing some viewers in the end of Patrick Troughton's run, and thereby they decided to exile the Doctor to Earth. So in this entire season he never goes anywhere in the TARDIS. Well, technically he travels to parallel universe. Let's talk about that when we come to that story. But now, anyway, this first season in color and the first season of Jon Pertwee, the 7th season, ran from the 3rd of January up until the 20th of June in the year 1970. And it consisted, as I said, of 25 episodes, and also none of the episodes are missing. During this run also we had a lot of more Unit. Unit was introduced back, well, technically Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart was already in Web of Fear, but Unit was actually officially introduced in The Invasion, the Cyberman story with Patrick Troughton. And now Unit is, well, the Doctor starts working for Unit this season and stays with them for basically the entire run of the 3rd Doctor. So, let's dig into this season of Doctor Who, which we start off by taking out this one, Mannequin Mania, because in this one we have the first story with the Autons, or the Nesting Consciousness, Spirit from Space. Let's put this one up here. So, Spirit from Space, 4-parter, the only 4-parter this season, and well, it consisted of the introduction of the 3rd Doctor. We have Unit, we have Liz Shaw, which ends up being the companion for the 3rd Doctor during this first season and only this 3rd season. She didn't even get a proper farewell scene. I'll talk about that when we get to season 8. So Liz Shaw is, well, she's a scientist working for Unit, and by getting involved with Unit after he gets exiled to Earth, the Doctor ends up, well, basically being the scientific advisor for Unit with Liz Shaw as an assistant. So we have the Autons in this one as well. So we have, for example, shop window dummies breaking through windows. Yeah. One thing to note about this one also is that the entire 4 episodes was shot on location, because there was some struggle, I think. Something happened in the BBC, so a lot of people went on strike, which meant that when they made these episodes it was all shot on film. Now film has much higher quality in picture, except when they're outside, but anyway, this meant that this 4 episodes, these are actually the only 4 episodes that can be released in this way on Blu-ray. So we have The Spirit from Space on Blu-ray also. And the reason I picked this one up is because, well, I wanted to see how it looked like in Blu-ray. It really stands up to Blu-ray quality. It really does. Except on the scenes that are filmed outside. If you have watched some Classic Who before this, you know that the picture isn't the best always when it comes to location footage that are taken outside. Especially when we are in the 70s. It gets better along the way, but also because this one had entirely different extras in relation to the DVD version, the special edition. Yeah, so I'll put that one in front of it. I really liked the cover more on this one than on this one. So I think the Blu-ray cover is much nicer. It's because it looks more epic in some way. The next story was featured on another box set called Beneath the Surface, which consists of 2 third Doctor stories and 1 fifth Doctor stories, and centers around Silurians and Sea Devils. Sea Devils are relative to the Silurians. So, this story is called Doctor Who and the Silurians. Yeah, it's actually called Doctor Who in the title. It's not called the Silurians, though I call it the Silurians, but there was a bit of... When they did these episodes, in production they were usually called Doctor Who and... For example, we can take Doctor Who and the War Games, but it was changed to War Games just before it was aired. Now, the War Games maybe wasn't called that in production, but this one, they didn't change it in the end, so it should have been called the Silurians, but... Because, you know, he's not called Doctor Who, he's the Doctor. This is a 7-parter, and, well, it shouldn't have been a 7-parter because it's way too long, and, yeah, this is one of my least favorite stories on this entire season, unfortunately. Just because it's way too long, it shouldn't have been a 7-parter. But, I mean, they had a low budget, so 7-parters meant that they can reuse the sets for 7 episodes. That's why it's a 7-parter. Next up, we have a story that is a little bit better, The Ambassadors of Death. Which is also a 7-parter, but I like this one a little bit more. It's still not the best, but it's an interesting story. Since, well... The Ambassadors of Death are basically aliens that are mixed up with another spaceship with humans. So these Ambassadors of Death, you see them in the spacesuits. They are radioactive and can go and like kill people by just touching them. Yeah. The last story of this season is actually good. This is my favorite story this entire season. Is it? I really like Spirit from Space, but definitely this one. This is my favorite, Inferno. So what's interesting about this one is we have sort of traveling in the TARDIS, not actually, because the Doctor has brought out the TARDIS console out of the console room and uses it to accidentally travel to a parallel universe while he was repairing the TARDIS console. And, well, in Inferno there are a project that is going to use a drill to get to the center of the Earth, I think it was. And in the parallel universe the same thing is happening, only they are a bit ahead. So if something goes wrong in that universe, the Doctor has time to figure out exactly what happened there and time to stop what happens in the other universe. I really love this story, even if it's a 7-parter and is long. It actually is really, really, really good. I think even Nicholas Courtney, who played the Brigadier, said this was one of his favorite episodes, especially since he got to play an evil version of the Brigadier in the parallel universe. So, Inferno. And yeah, this is a special edition. So, yeah, this season contained 2 special editions, Inferno and Spirit from Space, and also Blu-ray edition. So that's all for this season. Now I can see here in the camera that these are totally not visible since I managed to get the reflection right on the DVDs. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so just go quickly through them again. We have, starting off with Story 51, Spirit from Space, Story 52, Doctor Who and the Silurians, Story 53, The Ambassadors of Death, and Story 54, Inferno. And as I said, they can be the special edition, at least, of Spirit from Space is found on the Mannequin Mania box set. And also you get Terror of the Autons, which is the start episode of season 8 on that one. And Doctor Who and the Silurians can only be found in Region 2 at least on Beneath the Surface box set. So, that's it for the 7th season. Really short in the amount of stories, but it's still 25 episodes, which is shorter than the seasons before. And it isn't the best season, it really isn't. It gets better in the next season. And what happens in the 8th season? You just have to wait 2 weeks to find out. Yeah. See you later. Adios.